Welcome to another episode of Explaining the Joke, the video series where I take all the joy out of jokes by talking about it in detail. Alright, today's lesson that I really want to focus in on, that I think is super important, is pauses. Pauses kind of is what people mean when they talk about, oh, that comic, he has great comedic timing. It's the pauses, it's the slight time that passes. Yeah, I just described what a pause means. The time that passes between two things. From your setup and your punchline. And also, maybe after your punchline. I think there are three basic reasons why you would use the pause. Number one, it lets the listeners catch up. You wrote the joke. You know exactly where it goes and how it is and what the setup means. The audience is, surprise, they're not you. So everything you're saying to them is new information. They're trying to catch up. If it's a complex thought, they're going to need a pause. And like I talked about in a previous lesson called Joke Grenade, that's basically kind of like this. Sometimes it can be before the punchline, but sometimes it can be after the punchline. So if the setup is very complex, if you are talking about an example or using words that need some thinking, then you need to pause before the punchline because you want them to understand and catch up with the premise. But if the premise is easy, then you say the punchline, and the punchline is tricky, and it takes some thinking to figure it out. If it's clever, it's a large gap for them to fill. Then you need to do the pause after the punchline. So number one, lets the listener catch up, whether it be for the premise, the setup, or understanding the punchline. The pause is after. The pause helps people finish the thought, lets them guess what you're going to say next. Right? Like if I say something and then I leave a pause, naturally audience members are going to try to figure out where the punchline is going or what you're about to say. It's just human habit. Right? So for example, I have a joke where I talk about women's fear of online dating. Right? And I mentioned that the number one fear that women have of online dating is that the guy turns out to be a serial killer. And I say, I thought a woman's number one fear of online dating is that guys are, and I pause, and now people in the audience are going to try to guess, right, what I'm going to say. And by letting them do that, and then saying something that's not that, they're going to be pleasantly surprised. They're going to be titillated. That's a word, right? So for example, I thought women's number one fear of online dating is that the guy will be Asian. So when I hit them with Asian now, they're going to find that surprising because they didn't think that. Number three, the pause is a nod to the audience to pay attention to the next thing that you're going to say. All right, it's a nod that a punchline's come up, or that there's a special wordplay that they should be paying attention to. Because sometimes a wordplay can be so subtle. A punchline is coming up, and then their brain will be like, pay close attention to these words because they're not exactly how he's presenting them. But that's this episode, a quick lesson on the pause, which is super important. Short but sweet one. You need to perfect the pause if you want to have great comedic timing. Thanks again. See you next week.